Good afternoon, guys. I thought before going into the video about Christianity and other major religions, I did a video about the Mormon Church. I thought that I'd delve a little bit about the origin of religion, isn't it? It's quite interesting. So it's taken from my ebook, On to Come. I hope you've seen the post and you're getting excited. I am, obviously. So religions, there is no definition of the concept of religion that fully articulates all its dimensions, isn't it? From prehistory to the modern day. Because if we go to the ancient days in cave paintings, they actually had burial customs. Our distant ancestors continued their spiritual quest for life. So from the beginning, we were looking for answers. For Paleolithic people, and indeed for much of human history, religion provided a way of understanding and influencing power natural phenomena, whether the seasons, creation, life, death, and the afterlife, and the structure of the cosmos were all subject to religious explanations that invoke controlling gods, or a realm outside the visible, inhabited by deities and mythical creatures. It was more fun in the past, isn't it? At the beginning, one truth became fragmented and distorted into many different religions and faiths, which obviously only contained half-truth. This was by calculated design to keep the human race in a disconnected and separated state. Nevertheless, throughout the ages, the truth was once more introduced within all branches of religions and beliefs. Enlightened beings have been really busy, haven't we? Who've been previously practiced a religion belief, because I have many of them, looking for the answers. We brought a mystic and spiritual interpretation of our faith, having many following their spiritual teachings. For me, faith is religion is love and is living it. It's just being love and radiating love. That's basically what religion is all about. In most religions, unfortunately, beliefs are based on authority, whether that of a particular reader, a priest class, or sacred texts. People who blindly accept these doctrines may seek to defend themselves rationally, labeling those who do not follow the norm as heretics. Yeah. And religions have provided a means throughout history to communicate with these so-called gods through ritual and prayer, and these practices help to cement social groups and form hierarchies and provide a sense of collective identity. As societies became more complex, their belief systems grew with them, and religion was increasingly deployed as a political tool. Military conquests were often followed by the assimilation of the pantheon of the defeated people by the victors, and kingdoms and empires were often supported by their deities and priestly classes. Religions met many of the needs of early people and provided templates by which they could organize their lives through rites, rituals, and taboos, and it also gave them a means by which they could visualize their place in the cosmos. Religions serve purely as a social artifact, basically. Today, when the world is more materialistic than ever before, more than 3/4 of the populations consider themselves to hold some form of religious beliefs. Religion should seem to be a necessary part of human existence, as important to life as the ability to use language, isn't it? Whether it is a matter of intense personal experience, an inner awareness of the divine, or a way of finding significance and meaning, really, and providing a starting point for all its life's endeavors, it appears to be fundamental at a personal as well as a social level, religions. As I said, they've been there from the beginning. We know about the religions of the earliest societies from the relics they left behind and from the stories of later civilizations. In addition, isolated tribes in remote places still practice religions that are thought to have remained largely unchanged for millennia. These primal religions often feature a belief in a unity between nature and the spirit, linking people inextricably with the environment. Primal religions of the nomadic and semi-nomadic peoples of prehistory have gave way to the religions of the ancient and in turn of the classical civilizations. Their beliefs are now often dismissed as mythology, but many elements of this ancient narrative traditions persist in today's faiths. Religions continue to adapt. All beliefs were absorbed into the religions of the society that succeeded them, and new faiths emerged with different observances and rituals to accommodate new ways of being. It is thought that the oldest surviving religion today is Hinduism. It is rooted in the folk religions of the Indian subcontinent, which was brought together in the writings of the Vedas as earlier as the 13th century BCE. From this Vedic tradition came Jainism, Buddhism, and later Sikhism, which emerged in the 15th century. It's incredible that although there is one truth, there is so many religions, isn't it? Meanwhile, other belief systems were developing in the East. From the 17th century BCE, the Chinese dynasties established their nation states and empires, and there emerged traditional folk religions and ancestor worship that were later incorporated into more philosophical belief system and Taoism and Confucianism as well. Yeah. In the meantime, in the Eastern Mediterranean, ancient Egyptian and Babylonian religions were still being practiced. When the emerging city-states of Greece and Rome developed, their own mythologies and pantheons of gods were also built. And Judaism then emerged as the first of the Abrahamic religions, followed by Christianity and Islam. So many religions recognize the particular significance of one or more individuals as founders of the faith. They might have been embodiments of God, such as Jesus or Krishna, or recipients of special divine revelations, such as Moses or Muhammad. The religions of the modern world continue to evolve with advances in society, sometimes reluctantly and often by dividing into branches. Soon apparently new religions began to appear, especially in the 19th centuries. But these bore traces of the faith that had come before. It's all the same repeatedly through history. Human history has seen the rise and fall of countless religions, each with its own distinct belief, just to confuse people's minds, rituals and mythology. And although some are similar and considered to be branches of a larger tradition, there are many contrasting and contradictory belief systems. It's incredible how many different belief systems there are in the world. And what shocks me more is like if you are gonna born in Thailand, you're gonna be a Buddhist. If you're gonna born in an Arabic country, you're gonna be Arabic. In Spain, you're gonna be Christian. It's only normal that you are conditioned by the religion that it is, on the environment that you are, and that's the religion you're going to. So people just think that that's the true religion, but it's consider, don't question, consider the reason why you belong to that religion. I mean, you really truly chose it, or it was chosen for you, if you know what I mean. There is something that Spanish philosopher, obviously because he's Spanish, I thought I'll bring it here. It's called George Santayana, and he said, what religion a man shall have is a historical accident, quite as much as what language he shall speak, or your name is just whatever it is that comes from wherever it is that you are born. The ideal of good and evil is fundamental to many faiths. Obviously, it's all based in a devil and a god, and religion often has a function of offering moral guidance to society. The major religions differ in their definitions of what constitutes a good life, providing certain moral codes that are almost universal. Yeah. Religious taboos, commandments, and so on not only ensure that the will of God is obeyed, but also is a form of framework for society and its laws to enable people to follow a spiritual leadership, which in many religions was given by prophets with divine guidance and was passed on to a priesthood. This became part of many communities, and in some religions was wielded considerable political power. Most religions do address the central human concept of death with the promise of some kind of continued existence or afterlife, isn't it? In Eastern traditions, such as Hinduism, the soul is believed to be reincarnated after death in a new physical form, while other faiths hold that the soul is judged after death and resides in a non-physical heaven or hell. The goal of achieving freedom from the cycle of death and rebirth or achieving immortality encourages believers to follow the rules of their faith. Yeah, it's all about telling you a story of what needs to be doing, otherwise this is what's going to happen. It's control. Just as religions have created cohesion with societies, they have often been the source of conflict between them as well. Although all the major traditions hold peace as an essential virtue, they might also make provision for the use of force in certain circumstances, for example, to defend their faith or to extend their reach. Religions have provided an excuse for hostility between powers throughout history. While tolerance and not judgment is considered a virtue, heretics and infidels have often been persecuted for their beliefs, and religions have been the pretext for attempted genocides. And we also need to understand that responding to societal change and scientific advance, well, religion had already had to adapt or divide it into several branches. Many people recognize a lack of spirituality in modern society and have turned to new religious movements that have appeared in the past 200 years that are more in line with spirituality and the truth. Others, influenced by New Age movement of the late 20th century, have rediscovered ancient beliefs or sought the exotism of traditional religions with no connection to the modern world. Nevertheless, the major religions of the world continue to grow, and even today, very few countries in the world can be seen truly as secular societies. They all have a belief system. Our early hunter-gatherer ancestors considered the natural world to have a supernatural quality. For some, this was expressed in a belief that animals, plants, objects, and forces of nature possess a spirit in the same way that people do, and humans are seen as part of nature and not separate from it. A few of these primal religions, untouched by Western civilization and beliefs, survive to the present day, and some attempts have been made to revive them by indigenous people who are trying to reestablish lost cultures. Although their belief system may seem to be primitive to modern eyes, traces of them can still be seen in the major religions that have evolved in the modern world or in the New Age search for spirituality. And what Albert Einstein says, a world manipulator, all religions are and science are branches of the same, the tree of the life, basically. The questions of why human beings first developed the idea of a world beyond the visible one in which we live is complex. Motivated by an urge to make sense of the world around them, particularly the dangers and misfortunes they faced, and how the necessities of life were provided, people in early societies sought explanation in a realm that was invisible to them but had an influence other to their lives. Just hold on, because Divinity, she wants to come in. She's been playing in the garden. Let me open the door for my baby. Come on, sweetie, mommy's doing a video. There you go. Yay. Come and say hello. Come. Come and say hello to the tribe. Say hi. It's been in the garden. Okay. There you go. Right. Let me just start again. I got a bit distracted. The question of why human beings first developed the idea of a world beyond the visible one in which we live is complex, isn't it? I believe they were motivated by an urge to make sense of the world around them, particularly the dangers and misfortunes they face, and how the necessities of life were provided. People in early society sought explanations in a realm that was invisible to them, but they knew they had an influence in their lives. The idea of a spirit world is also associated with notions of sleep and death, and the interface between this and consciousness. In this twilight zone between sleep and waking, life and death, light and dark, like the dreams, hallucinations, and states of altered consciousness that suggest that the visible, tangible world is not the only one, isn't it? That there is another supernatural world that also exists and has a connection to our own. It is easy to imagine how the inhabitants of this other world were thought to influence not only our world, our minds, and actual spiritual family, but also to inhabit the bodies of animals and even inanimate objects, and to cause the natural phenomena affecting our lives. The figures of humans, animals, and human-animals hybrids in Paleolithic cave paintings are often decorated with patterns that are not thought to represent the involuted back of the retina, patterns known as entopic phenomena that visually face such as doggery, zigzags, and wavy lines which appear between wakened and sleep, or between visions and hallucinations. It's all there, guys. It's all there. in the caves paintings. Yeah, it is impossible to ask the Paleolithic hunter-gatherers of Europe about the beliefs and rituals that lie behind their cave paintings, but in the 19th century it was possible to record the cultural and religious beliefs in southern Africa, not distinct, but there was hunter-gatherers who cave paintings reminiscent of those of the Stone Age, where they portray spiritual life offer a living parallel to the religious ideas archaeologists have attributed to early modern humans. It's incredible the knowledge they had in ancient times and how everything is being revealed to us. And the mythology that all these people model in their local environment, it was based on the idea that that they're both natural and supernatural realms that deeply intertwined. And there is two deities. There is the creator and there is a trickster deity, and the family, and they share the same wall with the spirits of the dead, including the spirits of the early race, a community of hybrid animal humans with powers to shape, transform, and create. So we've got all of these stories that they come from the ancients, and how some of the ancient civilizations offer prayers to the moon and stars to give them access to spiritual power, as well as look at good luck in hunting. Let's go to the origin of death, and I like the belief of the Maori ancestors. It's the Polynesian people steaming back on the second and third millennium BCE. Death did not exist at the beginning of the world, but was brought into being following an act of incest. That's what they said. In one version of the Maori myth, the forest god Ten grew up between the separated his parents, and the sky god Ranchin and Papa, the earth goddess, because they forced him to live in darkness. Then he asked his mother to marry him, but Papa explained that he could not be. And then Ten shaped a woman from mud and mated with her. The story is complex. I'm not going to go into detail, but basically it's a story of a belief of how death, sort of a union. Of discovering a terrible truth and descending into shame to the darkness of the underworld. And it was from this moment that the humankind descended to the realm of death, spiritual death. It's just, I'm telling you this because there's so many stories about how death becomes and how religions becomes, and also on how we became to sacrifice animals and humans and the reason why. And I think it's important to be aware. I just want to touch before I finish the video on the sacrifice of animal and humans. Has been a feature of many religions around the world, but the idea of ritual sacrifice was particularly important to societies in the ancient civilizations of Mesoamerica, notable on the Mayan and the Aztecs, but it's still going on with the Masonic system, and the Illuminati is still actually doing animal rituals and sacrifices and human sacrifices. The Mesoamerican cultures believed that blood sacrifice to their gods was essential to ensure the survival of their world. In a tradition of ritual bloodletting dated back to the first major civilization in Mexico, that of the Olmecs, which flourished between the 1500 and 400 BCE. Anyway, the problem of blood, what I'm talking about, and the necessity of sacrifice are central to the Aztec creation myth, and the Mayas, who had an incredible influence in this world. Bloodletting for the gods took two forms: auto-sacrifice, so self-inflicted bloodletting, and human sacrifice. Aztec sacrifice usually involved cutting the victim's heart from the body, and the heart was believed to be a fragment of the sun's energy, so removing the heart was a means of returning the energy to its source. The victim was typically held by four priests over a stone slab in the temple, while somebody cut the heart from the body and offered it still beaten to the gods. I mean, that's quite gory, quite scary. That's nothing to do with source energy, you know. And when Spanish invaded Hernan, Cortés and his conquistadores landed in Mexico in 1519, the Aztecs are believed to have mistaken him for the returning god, partly because Cortés had resembled the god distinct headgear. They sent the Spaniard maize cakes soaked in human blood, but their offering failed to appease the god, and the Aztec civilization was destroyed by the Spanish god on the Spanish. In contrast, the Mayan culture did not suffer the same annihilation, possibly because the Mayans were more widely dispersed in southern Mexico. And even today, the Tosi people, descendants of the Mayans, retain many elements of the old culture and religion. The Tosi people religion is a blend of Catholicism and traditional Maya beliefs. The people's homeland in southern Mexico is dotted with wooden crosses. These do not reference the Christian crucifix, but are thought to be channels of communications with Jabal Balamil, the Lord of the Earth, a powerful god who must be worshipped before any work can be done in the land. In their adaptation of the ancient beliefs, the Tosi people associated the sun with the Christian God and the moon with the Virgin Mary, and also worship carvings of Christian saints. Can you see? Can you see how conditioned we are from the beginning, from those carvings, from these relations? I really wanted to give you an overall background on how things originate in the beliefs about death, about rituals, about human sacrifices, blood. She's here again. And how, regardless of how many times we've been told that religions are lying to us, how many times there's scandals in the Vatican, there's in pornography, you know, child abuse, racism, and we still people are following these religions, and we can see the need that they're looking for something, but they don't know where to go, or you know, they're looking for enlightenment, but they have no idea what they're looking for, isn't it? But anyway, the source has got a plan and it's all been executed. I hope this is useful. I'll continue to do a little bit of this before going to all the religions, because I think it's important that you know the basis and how everything originated. At least for me, that was important before delving into everything else. So guys, till next video, loving you unconditionally. Enjoy the weather, at least in the UK is amazing. Goodbye.